channel. My name is Sam.
I'm Ryan.
And today we're going to play a fun game. Ryan, tell us about it.
We are playing what we have called Disagree to Agree. We definitely didn't steal this from the concept Agree to Disagree as popularized by the episode featuring Tom Holland and Zendaya, where they put lines on a table and agreed to disagree about certain things. We certainly did not steal this concept from that. This game is that game.
Yeah.
We have little totems. Sam is drinking Diet Coke. I wasn't thirsty, so I have salt.
Salt, give us free
more
stuff.
than salt, give us free stuff. We have these lines on the table. The lines represent certain viewpoints all the way from strongly agree to strongly disagree. We will be posing questions and then marking on the table with our totems if we agree, disagree, strongly agree, or strongly disagree with the statement that Sam will read for us, and then we will discuss.
No.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Word association.
Nice.
So today, the theme of this episode is goats. If you don't know what GOAT stands for, it stands for greatest of all time. It's a pretty high bar. So I'm going to be reading some statements about goats from general areas of life. And we'll discuss. Are you ready for the first one?
I'm so ready. It's
Let
like
me
funny how ready I am.
pull it up on my phone. Okay, we are starting off strong, very strongly, okay?
Mhm.
Taylor Swift is the GOAT of songwriting. Okay,
So you said agree, I said strongly disagree.
yeah, GOAT is such a high bar.
And songwriting is
and
a completely subjective art.
It's completely subjective. All I'll say is I think Taylor Swift does a phenomenal job at making the listener feel like they are going through or have gone through whatever very detailed story Taylor Swift is crafting. She does a great job at telling narrative stories in her songs and making you think that you lived that experience as well. She's one of very few artists who make me feel that way.
Yeah.
So that's just why it was agreed, not like strong.
Right. I strongly disagree just with the premise of the fact that she's the greatest of all time. Taylor Swift is remarkably talented. She is an incredibly gifted songwriter, and I strongly agree with the fact that she is probably one of the best alive right now. But Miranda, Sondheim, Weber, I mean, we have so many musical theater writers especially, but also in the pop space. I mean, even like Beyonce, Adam Levine, Katy Perry, they can give you really, really specific stories. I do think that Taylor Swift is remarkable at that, but as far as like songcraft, I think the greatest of all time is Paul McCartney.
See, yeah, and if that were the statement, I would probably say strongly agree. But, here we are.
But if you strongly agree with the fact that Paul McCartney is the singular greatest of all time, then you would probably disagree with the fact that it's Taylor.
No, I think there are so many greatest
So many greatest of all time,
There's so many goats.
It's a group, not a singular title. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like truly, I feel like as far because songwriting is so subjective, I feel like the goats of music. Yeah, it's Paul McCartney.
It's a herd.
Like it's a herd.
All right. Recollect your totem.
Reset.
Yes. What is the next statement?
LeBron James is the GOAT of basketball.
All right. I said strongly agree. You said agree.
This is only because I don't sports. Like truly, obviously there are a lot of like icons that I'm familiar with, like Kobe, MJ, LeBron James. So I just put agree because I can't talk about like what makes someone a GOAT of basketball. Did I say basketball weird, or was that just me?
I didn't notice anything weird about it.
Well, like I just don't feel like I know how to identify statistically what makes someone the greatest. But I could agree because the fact that I am super familiar with just LeBron James as an icon probably signals to me that he's the greatest of all time.
Yeah, for me, sports are tough because there is a lot of statistical analysis that can go into verifying like who is the greatest of all times. But there is a spread of those statistics. You know, what are we talking about? Are we talking about points scored? Are we talking about efficiency? Are we talking about free throws? Are we talking about, you know,
Trophies. Like,
yeah, rings? Are we, you know, like what are we actually talking about? Time played, you know, injuries. What are we What are we talking about? So there are like a lot of so while those statistics I think in sports make this question a little easier than something subjective like songwriting. Once we get into the, you know, if we're talking about good, better, best, once we get into the best category, even those statistics become a little bit subjective because depending on your narrative, you can craft a narrative to argue why these statistics weigh more favorably than others. For me, the reason that I strongly agree with the statement that LeBron is the GOAT actually has very little to do with what he does on the court. What LeBron does on the court is very special. Same with Kobe, same with MJ, same with Stephen Curry, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what LeBron James does off the court and his ambitions and what he's already done to transform the entire National Basketball Association, his ambitions to buy, own, and run a team, you know, his willingness to talk about race in America, things happening domestically and abroad, his voice, I find really, really, really important. And I don't sport that much either. Like, I'm not a huge basketball fan, but when I think of basketball, knowing a fair amount about, I think, the two people who are often talked about in this conversation who aren't LeBron or MJ and Kobe, knowing a good deal about those three men, when I think of basketball, I think of LeBron James.
Yeah.
And I don't personally anticipate that going away anytime soon. What is the next statement?
Obama is the GOAT president of our lifetimes.
Ooh.
Now let's establish a timeline here. I was born in 99.
I was born in 93, so we were both bebes for Clinton's term in office. Then we had Bush. Jr. and W. And then Obama, Trump, and now Biden. So that's the country club of men that we're looking at here.
What a gaggle.
All right, ready to place your totems? So you said strongly agree, I said agree.
Yes. Now, to be fair, a lot of this comes from the fact that I wasn't really a sentient person for Clinton and Bush. Again, like the only president, not the only, wow, it's kind of funny that I forget about Trump and Biden. The individual who has been president for most of my life is Barack Obama.
Yeah.
I also just feel like growing up, Obama did so much during his presidency that I could actually trace to positively affecting my life growing up. For example, I think we all remember the 2008 housing crisis that I think he handled pretty well. And also he passed a bill that let my family qualify for food stamps. Like broadening that welfare program. Like let my family growing up actually qualify for food stamps so that we could eat. Which is something that was a massive relief for my family because we were really struggling growing up. And so I just have a lot of positive memories of hearing my parents say okay, this can happen because of Obama. Yeah, unironically saying thanks Obama. These changes he's enacting are actually helping our lives. People underestimate the importance of the president being a comforting figure of the country they are in charge of. And a positive representation of the country they are in charge of and managing foreign relations and just being a political figure and a good one. And Obama is a fantastic political figure a great public speaker.
Yes.
It just
Checks all the boxes, and we have
Yeah.
not had a president who checked all the boxes since Barack Obama.
Since Barack Obama, and so I think that just makes him the GOAT. I think he surrounded himself with very smart people in his administration, and I just also think he's a phenomenal dude. So
If this were, no pun intended, black and white, and it was just like agree or disagree, it would be agree that Obama is the GOAT. The only reason that I put agree is just semantically, like if we go by the political hack kind of campaign philosophy, it's the economy stupid. Bill Clinton is the only president in modern history to preside over an American surplus. And the fact that no president, conservative or liberal, has been able to take that much of a bite out of our deficit and out of our debts to get us even close to swinging distance of that kind of feat makes me really pine for the Clinton years, even though I wasn't really old enough to be sentient for them as sort of a political and history junkie. That phase and period of American affluence is something that I think all of us really yearn for, especially after a global pandemic and supply shortages and all of those types of things. So that one thing sets Bill Clinton aside from almost every modern president. Everything else sets Barack Obama aside from almost every president. The fact that he was an excellent public speaker, the fact that the first lady was Michelle Obama, that his kids were Sasha and Malia, that his vice president was Joe Biden, that his Congress was efficient enough to single-handedly save the housing market, the American automobile market, and the healthcare market because he passed Obamacare, all while never having a major scandal in his tenure.
Don't forget the tan suit. His date night with Michelle to New York City.
I'm not even allowing you to spout this awful Fox News talking point right now.
But like those were the scandals.
Right, and all the while being the first black president. I mean, the only
Thanks for the
thing.
economy, Bill.
Genuinely, if Barack Obama could have also presided over an American surplus, he'd be king right now.
Yeah.
We would have gone back to a monarchy system and he would be king because, that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Obama.
I
miss him.
He's so much happier.
I'm sure he is. All right, reclaim your totem. Who is our next GOAT-worthy debate person?
Yes, clients, here they
Across
are.
the transition.
That was beautiful, Ryan. Ryan is the GOAT of transitions.
Wow.
Steve Jobs is the GOAT of invention. So yeah, I would disagree. You would strongly disagree. When I think of inventions, obviously I understand that Apple and the iPhone and everything like that, those are fantastic inventions and have really changed the way the world is now. But I think of Benjamin Franklin, being able to capture electricity, how much electricity has changed the entire human experience. And Thomas Edison, inventor of the light bulb. I think of kind of inventors in that way who have made everything else possible. And those inventions felt like they came from nothing. There was nothing before that. And I know I'm making a grand statement here, but I feel like there were progressive advancements to Apple and the Microsoft and all of that. Obviously they are game changers and they are massively successful and inventive companies, but like going from candle to light bulb like is a huge like jump.
It's funny that you say like the leap from candle to light bulb is so vast, because it feels like the leap from computer to mobile computation is actually a much more significant leap. And Steve Jobs is kind of single-handedly responsible for that.
Yeah.
I was watching a video of them unveiling, like, they didn't just invent the iPhone, they invented the way that we use the iPhone. Swiping and tapping. Where, like, people in the audience, when they first demoed that, went nuts. But the last time that I strongly disagreed with a statement, I believe, was Taylor Swift, because my brain immediately went somewhere else to Paul McCartney. I feel the same way here. My brain immediately goes, as history buffy as this answer is, to Gutenberg and the printing press. You know, making computation so accessible to a global market changed the way that we all use the internet. But making reading and writing more accessible to a global market changed the fact that almost everyone didn't read to almost everyone did read. And to your point about a jump, that's a jump. One thing, Steve Jobs and his inventiveness edited the world. Gutenberg's inventiveness changed the world. This was a very, like, intellectual video. We're just, like, kind of talking smart. What, is there another one?
I don't know. Yeah, there's one more,
Oh,
right?
wow, well, great. Reset your totems. Let's go again.
Here we go. Shakespeare is the goat of writing. Look at that!
We both agree.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as we've said before with kind of like the songwriting question, art is subjective. But what I will say is, like, think of all of the movie tropes and, you know, just popular movies. Odds are they came from Shakespeare. Shakespeare's stories have lasted numerous generations and retellings. And for a story like Romeo and Juliet to be told thousands of times, basically, that's a massive staying power. And the fact that, you know, he can put into words the human experience so well that a human in 2022 can read it and understand what it is at the core of, like, what he's talking about, is like, that's a great writer.
All while adhering to the strictures of a very particular pentameter, very, very, like, prosaic and thoughtful writing, not only in his pattern, but in his vocabulary. I mean, like, it's kind of remarkable when you, but also just the body of work. I mean, he wrote so much. However, like, Shakespeare didn't invent these tropes; he just popularized them.
And that's,
you know, because star-crossed lovers, that goes back to, like, the Greeks and the Romans.
It's in the Bible, totally.
So if you're talking about sales, or if you're talking about, you know, conversion in terms of plays done, works studied, you know, collegiate or otherwise, if you're talking about conversion, you know, in terms of adaptations and things of that nature, and then like, because the box office of She's the Man, that goes to Shakespeare. 10 Things I Hate About You, you know, Shakespeare. So, like, it's pretty hard to argue that that's GOAT status, but, you know, what is good writing? What stands the test? How do we know? Like, how do we know what people will be saying about Lin-Manuel Miranda or E.E. Cummings 200 years from now? You know, it's so hard to make an objective statement about subjective work, and also, like, Shakespeare is really hard to understand for some people, and that barrier of interpretation is I mean, I think a lot of people would disagree with this, and I'm not even sure I agree with this, but that barrier of interpretation could be considered a demerit on the success of his work. But it's kind of hard to disagree with the fact that his work is kind of in a class of its own.
Timeless.
Yeah. Well, now I will say that was a very
that was
intellectual debate. What a great video. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it so very much.
Yes.
Thank you for being here as we played our very original concept, Disagree to Agree. Not at all to be mistaken with a game that may have a very similar title, but with the main words in a different order.
In two very equally famous people playing it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe, I guess. Are we
Yeah.
done with the video? That's the whole shebang,
That's the
yeah?
whole thing. So like and subscribe. If you guys have any other, like prompts or whatever you want to see us discuss in a Disagree to Agree,
Leave it in
let us
those
know.
comments.
Leave them in the comments, and we will see you all later.
Love you, Daddy.
Bye.
Peace.